Rock, Arkansas, best known recently, of course, as Bill Clinton's home. 4 people were wounded in a drive-by shooting, 3 of them children. A growing problem that is shattering Little Rock's quiet. NBC's Jim Cummins.
These are the latest victims of high-powered automatic and semi-automatic weapons on the streets of Little Rock, only a couple of miles away from the governor's mansion. 3 children hid in their beds when 2 men in a car fired at least 20 rounds at a man on the street, and the large caliber bullets ripped through nearby houses. Terrence Caffey, 18 months old, was critically wounded.
And when you use a rifle or a high-powered weapon like was used in this crime, then not only is the intended victim a potential target, but anyone really in the immediate area.
The people around here are terrified. Leonard Evans says after dark the shooting begins, and he keeps his niece nearby.
When I hear them start shooting, I get back in the house and shut the door way back in the back room, because, you know, like that house over there, they can shoot through it, and they shot through that lady's house over there, but they ain't hit my house yet.
I'm afraid to sit out at night.
Mary Dillard says when she moved here 15 years ago, this was a peaceful neighborhood. Not anymore.
All through the night you can hear something up there, something shooting or something.
Another woman says she now sleeps on the floor with her baby under mattresses for protection. Police say incidents like this are not just confined to the big cities anymore. They are now common in a place like Little Rock. Jim Cummins, NBC News.
Look at this picture very carefully. It's a 1-year-old drive-by shooting victim, an innocent child caught in the middle of gang warfare. Good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. Is violent crime taking over our city? It would certainly seem so, and the victims many times are innocent.
The most recent example happened about 3 o'clock this morning. 2 brothers were inside their house sleeping when they were hit by bullets from a drive-by shooting. Here's Alan Kelly.
Passenger using the high-powered assault rifle fired several rounds. The rounds penetrated the walls of the house there at 1519 hangar and struck 2 young children inside the house, and then bullet fragments struck 3 other people inside the house.
The ambulances and police descriptions are almost routine, but the sight of innocent victims is harder to get accustomed to. More innocents are injured in drive-by shootings these days because of the weapons being used.
This wall is the barrier that protects the people inside from the violence outside. In fact, one of the bullets went through this wall and through the bed headboard, injuring an 11-year-old laying in the bed. Over on this wall, you can see half a dozen bullet holes through the wall. One of these bullets traveled through the wall, across the room, and into this wall, where it injured a 1-year-old child in the room next door.
The 1-year-old and the 11-year-old are still in critical condition. 3 others are in good condition, but they are not the only victims. Bullets have passed through this house next door, and across the street there are bullet holes in an apartment door. The fear of night is shared by hundreds of innocents in Little Rock, reinforced by tragedies like a 1-year-old victim. Alan Kelly, Channel 4 Eyewitness News.
Those 2 brothers remain hospitalized tonight at Children's Hospital in Little Rock. 1-year-old Terrence Caffey remains in critical condition. His 11-year-old brother Michael is now reported in serious.
Watch as police take back a building where gangs are barricaded inside. Detectives say gangs are waging war on CHA guards and pinning down police with bullets and sniper fire from the shadows. Now, before dawn, police will secure the tall white tower, arrest 3 juvenile gang members, and seize 4 weapons. Then the cycle of violence begins again at daylight with gunfire from a building across the street. Police take aim in that direction and the cycle continues. Again, morning news. Now neighbors tell us the suspect was always firing his guns. This time the shooting spree was inside the ER at St. Anthony Hospital in Michigan City, 65 miles southeast of Chicago. 3 people wounded, 1 critically. WGN's Joni Lum has more on the suspect and the scene.
The St. Anthony Hospital walls are riddled with bullet holes, some covered with tape as if to hide the violence. At least 13 shots were fired. 52-year-old Charles Major had been brought by ambulance to St. Anthony at about 1 a.m. He was complaining of leg pains and other ailments before he allegedly took out a 9mm semi-automatic handgun from his wife's purse and started shooting wildly around the emergency room.
Heard some loud commotion and a lot of screaming, and also the shots were going off at the same time. I seen the flashing from the shots going off, and next thing we do, we shut the door, and that was the last thing we seen.
2 security guards and a hospital visitor were wounded. Major then fled the hospital on foot with his wife and 4 young children. An hour and a half later, police were checking this family crisis center to see whether Major, his wife, and children had sought shelter here. The officer had just left the center when shots were fired at him.
There was 2 gunshots that he, I think as he stated, he heard whizzing by. Then he jumped off the porch onto the ground. He heard another gunshot, and by this time he called for other units to arrive.
Police immediately arrested Major and his 42-year-old wife, Phyllis. Their 18-year-old son says Major was a peaceful man who provided for the 9 children in the family in spite of being unemployed.
It hurt me, just find out he shot those, people, I guess, because I guess he thought they was involved with something. Well, they must have been bothering him or something, because I know he wouldn't have did it for nothing.
But neighbors say Major fired weapons around the neighborhood every day for the last 3 weeks, destroying property and threatening lives.
The guy is just a menace to this society. We've taken statements down to the policemen. We try to get a block thing together to report him to the policeman, but the policeman will come and talk to him and let him go.
Neighbors say they predicted the shooting wouldn't stop until someone was hurt. In Michigan City, Joni Lum, WGN News.
In the news this morning, members of the Church of God in Christ are targeting some tough issues at this year's convocation, including gang violence. There have been several workshops focusing on ways youngsters can avoid the trappings of drugs and crime, methods away from violence and crime. Joe?
It's not just Kojic trying to address the problem of gangs. As Steve Hazlett reports, several agencies are now teaming up with Memphis police to combat gang violence.
The blue lights are flashing. It's another Memphis crime scene.
People are always around here shooting and stuff. A lot of people get killed.
We are in very, very dangerous times.
Gang violence is probably best felt right here between these 2 Whitehaven apartments. Lanita King used to live right there. She was killed earlier this year by a gang member. She used to play with a classmate, Xavier Jeffries. He lives right here. He, too, became an innocent victim of gang violence.
Still ahead.
Our top story this evening, Durham police make a sweep for 2 suspects linked to several drug-related murders. It ended with a man in the hospital, several smashed cars, and police still are searching for their man. Last night, the suspects led police on a high-speed chase down Fayetteville Street in Durham, knocking down poles and crashing into 2 cars. 1 suspect was injured. He was charged and taken to Duke Hospital. 2 other people were also arrested in connection with the drug murders. The other suspect in the chase fled on foot. He is still at large. No names have been released at this time.
Before last night's high-speed chase, Durham police made several stops in search of their suspects. And today, one Durham family claims those searches went too far. WRAL's Kurt Autry has the story.
The suspect injured in this car is in the hospital and charged only as John Doe. The other man fled on foot. Police suspect both are drug dealers embroiled in a turf war with the Jamaicans, a war that has already claimed several lives.
But how far do you go to catch a killer? Some people believe the Durham police have gone too far. Last night, the McCall family became convinced of that when this stun grenade came through the front door.
This one definitely looked like some kind of bullet hole or something.
Carlos McCall says he awoke to stun grenades in his apartment. Police presented a search warrant for 2 men, named only as O and Face. Carlos says he doesn't know those people. What he does know, he says, is that police were both verbally and physically abusive.
Then he jumped on my back, put his knee on my back, and said, "Shut up, my." That's how they were talking the whole time.
I'm not afraid of the people they call criminals because I don't know them. I walk the streets many times and nobody never bothered me. The ones that have license appear to be criminals to me.
Police were unavailable for comment today, but on the warrant, investigators allege they saw the 2 men they were looking for enter this apartment. The McCalls plan to file a grievance with the city. Kurt Autry, WRAL TV5 News, Durham.
WRAL attempted repeatedly to ask Durham officers about the incident at the McCall home. We were told the only officer available to respond had gone for the day.
Good evening, everyone. A beautiful little girl kidnapped, raped, murdered. Passaic is outraged.
Her family knows justice will be slow. In a courtroom today, an act of impatience and pain. And tonight, a heartbreaking memorial. Robert Miller reports.
Dios te salve María, llena eres de gracia, el Señor es contigo. Bendita tú eres entre todos.
In the Hispanic tradition, family and friends have begun a 9-day vigil in memory of 7-year-old Davina Janau in the Janau's Passaic home. The vigil began a few hours after Conrad Jeffrey appeared for a hearing on charges of kidnapping, raping, and murdering the child, and after the little girl's uncle tried to exact revenge as Jeffrey was led from the courtroom. The uncle did not succeed in reaching the suspect. Grief-stricken relatives are incensed, and there was a demonstration outside the courthouse because Jeffrey was paroled last month in the plea bargained attempted abduction of a Hackensack girl in 1990.
We want justice! We want justice! We want justice!
Jeffrey's record also includes another plea bargained assault on a child in 1982 and the alleged homicide of a woman in 1974.
Shows that he wasn't rehabilitated, and the fact shows that the neighborhood wasn't advised that we had such a horrible criminal in the neighborhood, that if we had known we had such a horrible criminal in the neighborhood, we could have done something to pay more attention to our children.
Prompted by this case, Governor Florio is asking for a law forbidding plea bargaining and denying parole to those charged with sexual assault of a minor. For the family and friends of the murdered Davina Janau, that's not nearly enough.
They should just kill him and get it over with, because if they let him come out again, he's going to do the same thing. He's going to keep killing innocent people. And they shouldn't even let him come out in the first place.
A Passaic policeman told me that when suspect Jeffries appears on TV news programs, even local jail inmates loudly express their hatred toward him. In Passaic, Robert Miller, Channel 9 News.
Good evening. It's a discovery more gruesome than the movie Silence of the Lambs. Police today in Milwaukee wore yellow rubber suits and breathed from air tanks while removing boxes of body parts from a fly-infested apartment. As Jay Levine reports, it was perhaps the suspect who lived in this apartment's next victim that escaped, who was able to lead police to the gruesome discovery.
This is what it looked like late last night. Police began to gather evidence after coming to the apartment with the man who claimed to have been attacked here.
We seen a guy, police bring a guy back, a young guy back, and he had one handcuff on and everything, and he was complaining about somebody in the building that was harassing him.
Inside, the horrifying discovery of body parts in drawers, preserved human heads in a refrigerator, and IDs belonging to several local men who'd been reported missing. The suspect was quickly taken into custody.
When the police came in, they came with all kind of chains and handcuffs, and they chained him down. He was kicking and scratching and hollering like a cat.
It's obvious that there has been a number of human specimens found within the apartment, and to a certain extent they have been there sometime.
More human bones were reportedly found late this afternoon in a dumpster out behind the apartment building as police continued to search the area for evidence, pouring through trash containers, combing weeded areas out back, scouring the inside of the one-bedroom apartment for clues. Neighbors, even friends of the suspect, said they smelled something wrong a year ago.
It stunk.
What did it smell like?
Rotten meat.
And you noticed it, and he said he had a problem with his freezer?
Yeah, with his freezer.
And you believe him?
Yeah, I didn't have any. Why should I suspect him?
The neighborhood, meanwhile, remains in a state of shock, awaiting the true dimensions of the crime, charges against the suspect, and word on whether or not he acted alone. Jay Levine for CBS News, Milwaukee.
Milwaukee police tonight have confirmed the identity of the suspect. He is 31-year-old Jeffrey Dahmer. The Milwaukee Sentinel tonight is quoting an unidentified source as saying Dahmer has confessed to killing 11 men. The newspaper also says there may have been as many as 18 victims and that the man has confessed to cannibalism. The Milwaukee Sentinel also quotes other sources who say police found 11 skulls scattered in a file cabinet, a closet, a refrigerator, and a freezer. 3 headless torsos were also reportedly found in the men's bedroom. Police will not confirm the reports. Dahmer's only prior criminal conviction was second-degree sexual assault for enticing a child for immoral purposes. He is currently on probation for that charge. He is officially being held on suspicion of homicide. A third man has been arrested in connection with a weekend homicide in the Lower Valley. Bail was set at $150,000 this morning for Isidro Villegas of Wapato. He is being held as a material witness in the murder of Marciano Castillo of Sunnyside. Authorities say Villegas was standing 5 to 10 feet away when the victim was shot in an illegal cockfight near Grandview. 2 other Villegas brothers are expected to be charged in the case tomorrow. Law enforcement authorities are still looking for 2 other men in connection with the murder. An autopsy today revealed that Villegas died from multiple gunshot wounds to the head and body. The shots came from a .45 caliber revolver and a 9mm handgun.
Good evening. An accused cop killer is behind bars tonight, charged with murder held without bond. His name, Roman Chavez. His home, police say, was the scene of the crime. Tonight, he is the only suspect. The victims, 2 Chicago police officers, Gregory Hauser, 43, and Raymond Kilroy, 46. Both took bullets at close range. And according to police, this tragedy began with a simple domestic dispute.
Tonight, the question remains, how and why did that dispute erupt in such an explosion of violence? As Channel 2's Elizabeth Vargas reports, police, family, and friends are still searching for answers.
23-year-old Roman Chavez showed no remorse as police led him to court today.
Did what I had to do. That's all I say. I tried.
With those chilling words, Chavez admitted shooting to death 2 veteran police officers last night and fulfilling death threats he previously made against police. Channel 2 News has learned that last week, Chavez threatened to kill several Elmwood Park policemen after they arrested and incarcerated him in February for traffic violations and resisting arrest. Friends say Chavez confided he had bought 2 guns to commit the crimes.
He said that he was going to ambush him and wait for him behind the police station and kill him. The cops that were messing with him. That's about
Did you take him seriously?
No, everybody on the bus was listening to him. He was going crazy on the bus, and I just moved away.
Chavez had had several run-ins with police, mostly for minor violations. His arrest records with Chicago and Illinois State Police are filled with warnings he may be confrontational or try to escape. But nothing in those records prepared police for last night's brutal attack. Chavez fired 6 shots at point-blank range into the officers as they tried to arrest him in his grandmother's garage. He then led police on a 5-hour chase. The grandmother had called police because Chavez refused to move his car.
Oh, why did I ever call him? Why did I ever call him? Why did I ever call him? I've been threatening to call him for a long time, and I never did. And this time I called him. Oh, God, what did I do wrong? I don't know.
Florence Zuniga never dreamed her call for help would end in such violence. Elizabeth Vargas, Channel 2 News.
A U.S. Supreme Court ruling isn't a hit with much of the music industry tonight. The ruling centered on the classic Roy Orbison rock hit Pretty Woman and a parody done on the song by the rap group 2 Live Crew. Now, this is the song most people recognize, the original. Now, this is the song done by 2 Live Crew. This is how it sounds.
Big hairy woman, you need to shake that stuff. Big hairy woman, you know I bet it's tough.
The court ruled today the 2 Live Crew version is a parody that falls within fair use rules of federal copyright laws. That means 2 Live Crew and others can do takeoffs without getting permission and without paying royalties. The court ruled parodies can provide social benefit. In another case, Supreme Court justices refused to hear the appeal of boxer Mike Tyson's rape conviction. Tyson's lawyers argued the former heavyweight champ was denied a fair trial because prosecutors handpicked the judge who used to prosecute sex crimes. A second Tyson appeal is still making its way through the lower courts.